Anybody's ever used these trail cameras?
You could yell a little bit, Roy. Wouldn't mind. We're eating peanuts and we're chewing. We can't hear you.
Well, anyway, you get these. It's a panther. We don't know what the gender is in our counting method relies on the fact that we're able to determine the gender, and by the tracks we can tell male or female panther apart by the tracks out. But by the pictures of the trail camera, you don't always get that diagnostic shot.
It's female.
Looks like a that's for sure. Well, no diagnostic picture that you can use to tell. So we decided if we could slow them down, that and get them to linger a little bit longer in the field of view, we might get a picture of their genital area. This something kind of important. The important thing I got to say here is it doesn't bring the panthers in. I'd say it has an effective range in a matter of feet, not miles or yards. But the idea was to get them to stop and maybe move around a little bit. It was used made originally for trap bait. The animal approaches your trap, steps over it, you miss him, you got to wait another month until he comes back again. But with some kind of lure there, he may start around a little more and actually put his foot in the trap. So we just tried it on the cameras. And here's one of the first place we tried in Everglades National Park. There's a cat who just has entered the field of view. You can see by the direction those weeds and all are blowing there behind it that the wind's kind of crossing the road here. She's going to miss it, looks like. And that's like close as you can get to it and find it. But she does protect it, so she gets interested in it. I say she, I don't know what it is, I'm just saying it's a panther at this point. She continues to stay in the field of view. We're getting better chance maybe of seeing her tail and her than that. Really getting interested in it. Still we can't tell what the gender is. We got our attention in that. There's two holes in the roof of their mouth that they breathe through, or they draw air over it. It's a verbal-nasal organ, and I think in the cipher out pheromones. So that's what she's doing. In fact, that point right there, she's still running there. We should take one last check. There. That's the one shot we needed. And we found that after we started using this lure, we started increasing the amount of images per visit from 1 to some of them to 45, up to 60 times to get this picture taken. And finally, we get a picture of the genital area. Also, you get a neat opportunity here to maybe see some anomalies when the cat, big scar on the side, or a crook in his tail or something of that nature that you wouldn't get with just a pass by the cat walks in the picture one time. There she is making a urine marker. Used to be in the red Research said females didn't do that, they sure did. Even though it's not proper to do that. That was a female, so this is what the males did when they found our lure. They investigated it. First shot, right off the bat, you can see it's a male.
I don't like this.
That they were disturbing that place very much? I mean, were they unearthing it, digging it up or anything?
Well, it just really varied. Some of them never touched it. Others would make a earmark of themselves. We got bored seeing them doing that. They just did it a lot. But not always exact spot. They might move over a few feet and do it. In fact, they rarely disturbed the spot.
Okay.
9 days later at the same place, another cat visit. You can see his testicles there in the very first shot, so that was accomplished. There's something else there that is helpful. Look at his tail compared to that other cat. See that big loop in that was tail? Look at it. Doesn't have that. They can do a lot with their tails. They can flex them and move them. They can do a lot of things with them. So it could be that don't hang your hat on their tail, but you can see some differences. And this cat's relaxed and some of the other ones. So they are different cats. In fact, in the next 3 years, I've got several hundred pictures of both of these cats, just 2 cats, which are everybody's apart. Same 2 characters every time. Not the usual suspects. Then he's going to do something this kind of interesting. He's going to rub his face on the ground. I'll show you some pictures here in a minute to show you what they're doing to do that. Put it down the wall and just like the whole world through. We missed a lot of pictures. There's about 215 seconds go by here. There's just several pictures taken. These early cameras weren't very sensitive. There was unexplained gaps in the data. It was real frustrating, but where they got better. I haven't been doing this too many years, but they've improved a lot. I think in 1976 or something, took the pictures of some redwoods on the Texas coast with a trail camera, and it was a big, cumbersome thing, and rain affected it. Had a big trail you had to bury, and the wolf had to step on it. We've come a long way. Okay, he's leaving the area. You can see that big straight tail on it. He comes back to you a little bit later, same cat. Okay, if you don't have a bait, everybody says, well, I'm going to get some bait. I think there's baits out there. I think there's perfumes and things that are attractive to cats. We've never used that kind of stuff. But I know other people that have set out cameras that use various things. And so it's not like it's something that would prevent you from accomplishing your goal if you didn't know how to make it. I think other things are available. And you don't even need bait at all if you pick the right side. Next part about that. This log has been scratched by cats, and so we set up a camera there to see how they do it and what the gender log on and so forth. We put bait beside the logs. They didn't stop. We put bait on the logs. They walked by and they ignored it. We just used the logs that they'd already scratched, and they would scratch it. Some of them would come back and work from here. Now, I think you can hear the camera sometimes. I don't think this cat's here. seen these things since I was, 50-something years ago. I saw they were scratching on Spanish dagger logs in the fall. But I never did get to see them do it until we got these cameras. There's been a lot more to me than probably y'all in here. I couldn't imagine what they were doing and how they did it, and I know. There's the shot we went for the Jen Fountain Gym. Took a bunch of shots, but finally got there. This cat here doesn't expose the exemplary, but I'm pretty sure it's female, but I wouldn't say for sure. And the reason we can't tell is when she gets off the log, she goes another log. So good that. There's a male, the first picture he so both genders mark these logs, and they mark them in another way. I'll show you some more pictures or something else they've done marking these logs. But if you can find these things, you don't need to bait. They've already marked it for you. So. Same thing, daytime, definitely see it's male. Okay, this one here, I don't think you ever find without a house. I've always noticed what older trained dogs, the good ones, that know what they're looking for, would alert to bushes and stuff along the trail, limbs that stuck off the trail about the height of the cat's head. And the dogs would really take interest in it. I could tell it was a panther they were smelling, and I didn't know what it was. And I told my kids and grandkids when they were getting big enough to go hunting with me, I would show them where the dogs were, and I said, "That's a panther." So I love that's a panther. But I didn't know what they were doing. I actually thought they were just walking by, and the limb rubbed their body, and I left a little residual scent there so the dogs could still smell it. They couldn't trail away from there. It didn't turn into a capture, but they really would work it and work it. And smart with noses and move their tails a little. So I saw them doing this one day, and I said, "Well, hey, I got these cameras now. I'm gonna see what they're doing." So I set the camera in there, and it must have been 10 days, 2 weeks later, this male panther came along and gets that laden cane on his, just up over the dog was smelling it. And he gets it on his face there, and he starts working it forward. Look at his ears there. He's getting some kind of pleasure out of that or something. He's kind of getting into it. And about 2 weeks later, I think the same male came back and did it again. But the pictures were grainier and weren't as good. This was the best pictures I got. So I know 11 people in the United States and Mexico that hunt panthers for a living, like myself and my kids. And I asked them, I really appreciate their opinions and things, and we'd always call each other and talk about stuff. And I asked them if they'd ever seen their hounds do this, and they all said, "Oh yeah, they did it all the time." But what do you think they're doing? So I think the cat's walking by there and rubs it, just like I did. So I'm anxious to show them what they're doing. Little dogs can smell it. This will just take so this is the automatic now. But this cat's running the same place, area of her face that the one was on the maiden thing. She's not scratching this log, she's doing something else, she's leaving the scent. John Kelvin looked up the name of the plant, it's Sebaceous plant. John's about to spell it for you. Anyway, with that trip camera, we never seen this stuff. Without a dog, we never know he did it, but I just think it's never going to be able to see the inside of you ever gotten. This is an addition by Rebecca Cameron. Got this picture. Well, I wish you could get through because yeah, they get used to it. Boy, we've had, I think it's making my head do this, but it seemed like we've had cats yeah, it really stays. I've had some dogs that would, every time we come by a log like that along the trail, they'd get up on it and walk it, really working, smelling it. So anyway, okay, these cameras are getting better and better. The rifle showing us some of this work on the kittens, and we've got several of them. These more modern cameras and set them up. But this is audio and video, so I hope you can hear it. You're not having to hear it. Listen. Male panther. He's got a pretty unique feature. He's got only one eye. Look, after getting some of this kind of stuff under our belt, I wanted to explore it more. I want to see if you could maybe even count these panthers using cameras. It's something a lot of people have tried and haven't had some success. You get a lot of pictures, but you can't always tell. You can't always tell what's the genders and so forth, and you can't. The females are really hard to tell apart, and that's the only way we've had to take that. I won't say anything that might embarrass Rebecca, but I mean, she had no experience with panthers when she took this job. Really done a good job, worked hard at it. She's honest, and she's got some remarkable stuff to show you on that. So I'm going to cut mine short so you can see good stuff. Anybody that's ever used these trail cameras, I'll put in place the people that have the funding project and cooperated in a way. The presentation follows this one. I'm going to give you all an introduction to this. Trail camera study in the addition lanes, and Rebecca Sensors, lady that's doing the work out there. Anyway, this was kind of a preliminary to that, how we got there to work on. We really use trail cameras to get pictures for sure, but you don't always get them there diagnostic. Can y'all hear me back there?
You could yell a little bit, Roy. Wouldn't mind. We're eating peanuts and we're chewing. We can't hear you.
Well, anyway, you get these. It's a panther. We don't know what the gender is in our counting method relies on the fact that we're able to determine the gender. And by the tracks we can tell male or female panther apart by the tracks. By the pictures of the trail camera, you don't always get that diagnostic shot.
It's female.
Looks like a female. That's for sure. But no diagnostic picture that you can use to tell. So we decided if we could slow them down, that it can linger a little bit longer in the field of view, we might get a picture of their genital area. This something kind of important. The important thing I got to say here is it doesn't bring the panthers in. I'd say it has an effective range in a matter of feet, not miles or yards. But the idea was to get this to stop and maybe move around a little bit. It was used made originally for trap bait. The animal approaches your trap, steps over it, you miss him, you got to wait another month until he comes back in. But with some kind of lure there, he may start around a little more and actually put his foot in the trap. So we just tried it on the cameras. And here's one of the first place we tried in Everglades National Park. There's a cat who just has entered the field of view. You can see by the direction those weeds and all are blowing there behind it that see her tail and her neck. It's really getting interesting. Still, we can't tell what the gender is. We got our attention. There's 2 holes in the roof of their mouth that they breathe through, or they draw air over it. It's a bronchonasal organ, and how they can decipher out pheromones. So that's what she's doing. In fact, that point up there, she's still running there. We should take one last check. There. That's the one shot we needed. And we finally got it. We found that after we started using this lure, we started increasing the amount of images per visit from 1 to some of them to 45, up to 60 times we kept it. Get this picture taken. And finally we get a picture of the genital area. Also, you get a neat opportunity here to maybe see some anomalies on the cat, big scar on the side, or a crook in his tail or something of that nature that you wouldn't get with just a pass by the cat walks through the picture one time. There she is making a urine marker. Used to be in the literature, it said females didn't do that. They sure did. Even though it's not a trapper to do that. That was a female, so this is what the males did when they found our lure. They investigated it. First shot, right off the bat, you can see it's a male.
I don't like this tonight.
Hey, Roy?
Yeah.
Did you find that they were disturbing that place very much? I mean, were they unearthing it, digging it up or anything?
Well, it just really varied. Some of them never touched it. Others would make a urine mark of themselves. We got bored seeing them doing that. They just fit it a lot. But not always exact spot. They might move over a few feet to do it. In fact, it rarely disturbed the spot.
Okay.
9 days later at the same place, another cat visit. You can see his testicles there in the very first shot, so that was accomplished. There's something else there that's helpful. Look at his tail compared to that other cat. See that big loop in that was tail? Look at it. It had that. They can do a lot with their tails. They can flex them and move them. They can do a lot of things with them. So it could be that don't hang your hat on their tail, but you can see some of the decision. This guy's relaxed and some of the other ones. So we are getting that. In fact, in the next 3 years, I've got several hundred pictures of both of these cats, just 2 cats, which are everybody's part. Same 2 characters every time, not the usual suspects. Then he's going to do something that's kind of interesting. He's going to rub his face on the ground. I'll show you some pictures here in a minute, show you what they're doing to do that. Just put it down in the wall and just started to all over the world through. We missed a lot of pictures. There's about 215 seconds go by here, and there's just several pictures taken. These early cameras weren't very sensitive. There was unexplained gaps in the data. It was real frustrating, but where they got better. haven't been doing this too many years, but on the family, but they've improved a lot. I think in 1976 or something, took some pictures of some red wolves on the Texas coast and with a trail camera, and it was a big, cumbersome thing, and rain affected it. And had a big trail that you had to bury, and the wolf had to step on it. And we've come a long way. Okay, he's leaving the area. You can see that big straight tail on him. He comes back to you a little bit later, saying, okay, if you don't have a bait, everybody says, well, I'm going to get you some bait. I think there's baits out there. I think you sell perfumes and things that are attractive to cats and whatever, usually that kind of stuff. But I know other people that have set out cameras that use various things, and so it's not like it's something that would prevent you from accomplishing your goal if you didn't know how to do it. Yeah, I think other things are available. And you don't even need bait at all if you pick the right side. Make part about that. This log is being scratched by cats, and so we set up a camera there to see how they do it and what the gender was on and so forth. We put bait beside the logs. They didn't stop. We put bait on the logs. They walked by, they ignored it. We just used the logs that they'd already scratched, and they would scratch it. Some of them would come back and mark it again. And I think you can hear the camera sometimes. I don't think this cat's hearing the camera. I've seen these things since 50-something years ago. I saw them scratching on Spanish dagger logs in the fall. But I never did get to see them do it until we got these cameras. It's real, a lot more to me than probably y'all in here. I couldn't imagine what they were doing and how they did it, and I know. There's the shot we went for the death bounty gender. Took a bunch of shots before we finally got there. This cat here doesn't expose the genital area, but I'm pretty sure it's female, but I wouldn't say for sure. And the reason we can't tell is when she gets off the log, she goes another way. There's a male, the first picture so both genders mark these logs. They mark them another way. I'll show you some more pictures of something else they've done marking these logs. But if you can find these things, you don't need bait. They've already marked it for you. So. Same thing, daytime, definitely see it's a male. Okay, this one here, I don't think you ever found it out now. I've always noticed what older trained dogs, the good ones, and then what they're looking for would alert to bushes and stuff along the trail, limbs that stuck off the trail about the height of the cat's head. And the dogs would really take interest in it. I could tell it was a panther they were smelling. And I didn't know what it was, and I told my kids and grandkids when they were getting big enough to go hunting with me, I would show them one of the dogs, and I said, that's a panther. So I love that's a panther. But I didn't know what they were doing. I actually thought they were just walking by, and the limb rubbed their body, and I left a little residual scent there so the dogs could still smell it. They couldn't trail away from there. It didn't turn into a capture, but they really would work it and work it. Smart with noses and move their tails a little on. So I saw them doing this one day, and I said, well, hey, I got these cameras now, I'm going to see what they're doing. So I set the camera in there, and it must have been 10 days, 2 weeks later, this male panther came along and gets that laden cane on his, just up over the dog was smelling it, and he gets it on his face there, and he starts working it forward. Look at his ears there. He's getting some kind of pleasure out of that or something. He's kind of getting into it. And about 2 weeks later, I think the same male came back and did it again. But the pictures were grainier and weren't as good. This was the best pictures I got. So I know 11 people This cat's running the same patient, area of the patient that one was on the main team. She's not scratching this log, she's doing something else, she's leaving the scent. John Kelvin looked at the name of the plant's herbaceous plant. John's about to spell it for you. Anyway, with that trip hammer, we never seen this stuff. Without dog, we never really did it, but I just think it's never going to be able to some insight we never gotten. This is in the addition land. Rebecca Cameron got this picture. Well, I wish you'd get through this. Yeah, they're getting, boy, we've had, I think it's taking my head with this, but it seems like we've had cats visit these logs and smell this, up to what, 40 days? What was our long?
Yeah, I think it's 42 days.
42
after
days.
she has left her scent from the log. So it's a real residual scent.
So, yeah, it really stays. I've had some dogs that would, every time we come by a log like that along the trail, they'd get up on it and walk it, really work and smell it. So anyway, okay, these cameras are getting better and better. Ralph was showing us some of this work on the kittens, and we've got several of them. These more modern cameras and set them up. But this is audio and video, so I hope you can hear it. You're not having to hear what I'm saying. Listen. Male panther. He's got a pretty unique feature. He's got only one eye. Look, after getting some of this kind of stuff under our belt, I wanted to explore it more. I want to see if you could maybe even count these panthers using cameras. It's something a lot of people have tried and haven't had such success. You get a lot of pictures, but you can't always tell. You can't always tell what's the genders and so forth. And you can't. The females are really hard to tell apart, and that's the one that we've had to take that. Same thing. It might embarrass Rebecca, but I mean, she had no experience with panthers when she took this job. Really done a good job, worked hard at it. She's honest, and she's got some remarkable stuff to show you on that. So I'm going to cut mine short so you can see good stuff.
So Roy, he received funding for this project for a total of 2 years, and we're a little over a year into the project right now. We started the study, studying the cameras out in October of 2010, and our study area is this part of the Adlands, the Adlands North, and it's about 70,000 acres total. And we've had up to 35 trail cameras set up in that area over the course of the last year. The objectives of our study are to determine if the panther population can be counted in the study area using camera traps. And we also want to compare the results from the camera trap study to the current method of determining panther population numbers. In addition, we want to increase the number of panther images generated per camera trap visit, and we accomplished this, as Roy said, by using the scent lure at sites along known panther travel routes, where Roy has repeatedly seen signs of panthers over his 30 years of experience tracking in the area. By increasing the number of images generated per camera trap visit, we are, as Roy showed us, more often able to determine the panther's gender. We can see if the panther is wearing a gray collar, and we are often able to see unique anomalies that allow us to identify individual panthers. First, I'll talk about the anomalies. I'd like to introduce you to my good friend Vincent. I've named him that because he has this big chunk taken out of his ear, somewhat like the famous artist Vincent Van Gogh. This is a great anomaly for identification because it's very distinct and it's permanent. Here you can see him again. Obviously, we got Vincent. This next slide shows a panther. At first, we don't know who it is or even whether it's a male or a female. And that's our scent station right there. And as the panther moves in, Jim, did you? Okay. So, we find out that it's a male. And then as he moves in further, moves in to make a urine marker. Oh, turns his head. Oh, there he is. We know it's Vincent. So you can see it's very useful to have the scent word there to get him to stay around, you can move around where you can see these different anomalies. Here is Vincent again with this little wound on his chest. I know it's Vincent because later in the series of pictures we see the ear notch. It's not a long-term anomaly, but it's certainly something that we can use, for a short period of time to say that that's Vincent, especially in a situation where we may not see the ear notch. Oh, okay. This guy, I was very concerned for Vincent when I saw this panther. This guy, look at him. He's big, muscular. He looks just downright nasty. And he's got this scar over his left eye, so nickname Scarface. Here he is again. He's moved even further into my dear Vincent's turf. And you can see again the scars. Even further into Vincent's turf, again, the scar. But then when I went back and looked at this picture, like, hey, wait a minute. That guy's Scarface, he's got the same scar as Vincent. Wait a minute. Vincent's Scarface and Scarface is Vincent. Look at that. So, the really important lesson here was that I initially thought they were two different males. But in actuality, they were one and the same. It was my first lesson in how easy it is to overcome these guys. This guy I call Jay. Not very original, I realize, but there's the J, tail. He does not have the notch in here. When you look at him side by side with Vincent, obviously very clear. And when he leaves the scene, see how he's got this goofy looking J in his tail. Unlike Vincent, when he leaves the scene, his tail is almost straight. This is another male we see occasionally in the edition, and he has a little ear notch here, different from Vincent. It's on top of his ear. He also has a collar. This makes it really easy to identify this guy. Here he is again, the notch, collar, and then notch, collar. All right, this is a female panther. It actually looks like it's the same picture, but it's actually, 5 years apart? She's got this wound on her hip. Again, something that we can use short-term to identify her or distinguish her from other females in the study area. So in addition to anomalies, the natural anomalies, we have an introduced anomaly which allows us to identify individual cancers, and that is a radio collar. We've got this guy. This is Deb and Dennis. I think they know who this is. This is Florida Panther 163. He was collared, or should I say recollared, on November 10th, I believe, of 2010. He actually was initially collared in the Turner River unit, and both Deb and Dennis were there for that. He was collared in the Turner River unit, I believe, in February of 2008, and shortly thereafter lost his radio collar. So this was the first time he'd been captured again since that capture. This is male panther 177, also seen in our study area. And I can tell them apart because this is 163 and this is 167. Because whoever put collars on, I want to thank you for this because the collars are the same, but one's on one way and one's on the other. So 177 bolts are on this side, and 163, he's got a bolt on the other side. So great. Thank you. This is female panther, 184, and this is female 175. And at this point in time, their coverages do not overlap, but if they ever did, you would be able to distinguish them by their different types of radio collars. Okay, so what have we determined so far? From October 20th to 2010, October 20th, 2010 to September 20th, 2011, we have captured 597 panther visits on our 35 cameras. Anytime a panther triggers the camera, we consider this a visit. And the number of images generated per visit has ranged from 1 image to as many as 820 images. I'm not going to show you all those, by the way. So of the 597 visits, 388 were by males, or 65%. 168 visits, or 28%, were by females. And 41 were visits unknown gender, which is just 7% of the total. So that's a pretty low percentage there. Just a note here on the high percentage of male visits, this is no way an indicator that there's twice as many males out there as females. It's simply a reflection of the fact that the males are on the move more and are moving over larger areas than the females. So obviously they're going to be moving past more of our trail cameras, getting the pictures taken a lot. Now if we look specifically at the male visits, here's the breakdown. Of the 388 male visits, 216 of those were visits. That's over half of the male visits. We've got our other known males, J-tail, 163 and 177, and the notch collar guy. And those 5 guys comprise a total of 89% of the total male panther visits. The other 11% are we were unable to identify. So what conclusions have we been able to draw from the male panthers in the study area? 5 known male panthers have used the study area as part of their home range during the past year. And here they are. We also know that Vincent is photographed often at many camera sites because his home range includes a large part of the study area. Over the year, he's been seen throughout the study area, except for the very westernmost section, and he's been photographed at 28 or 35 of our camera sites. The other known male panthers are photographed at fewer sites and penetrate the study area to a lesser degree. For example, that guy Notch, he very occasionally comes up into the southwestern section of the study area. And J-tail, he's only seen in the southeastern section of the study area. The third point, and I really want to emphasize this, is that all 5 males were not present in the study area at the same time. For example, I mentioned before, or maybe I didn't mention it. I'll mention it now. 163, he was originally, after he got his radio collar, he was photographed mostly in the northwest section of the preserve area that we're working in. And he gradually, after the first of the year, he started moving further and further out of the study area until eventually we didn't see him at all on the cameras, and then his radio telemetry data indicated that he's now moved northeast of the Henry prison. So after he moved out of that portion of the study area, 177 kind of came over from the west and gradually started to fill in that area that 163 had been. Also, we know that the telemetry data for the radio-collared male panthers indicates that their home ranges extend beyond the boundaries of our study area, and we would expect that the other known uncollared male home ranges extend beyond our study area as well. Okay, now looking at the breakdown of female panthers. Of 166 visits, 83 were from our two collared females, 184 and 175. And the other 83 were from uncollared male panthers. So even 50-50 split. The big question is, how many female panthers were responsible for the 83 uncollared female visits? And the answer is, well, it's problematic because panthers, female panthers, have few, if any, anomalies which allow for identification of individuals. So here we have two pictures of from two separate visits. Absolutely no urinations under one, no colics, there's nothing there that we can definitely use to say that's one cat or another. So really, we just don't know. We're not sure because it's the same cat. The other thing that makes counting these females problematic of these drug parents is that female panthers that have kittens are not always traveling with them. This is 184. She had 4 kittens in April, and we believe 3 survived because to date we have seen her traveling with at most 3 kittens. But sometimes she's with only 1, and sometimes she's with 2, and sometimes she's totally alone. Here she is. This is October 20th, just a few weeks ago. And there's 1 kitten. You can see the second one in the background. This is 175 and her kittens. She actually had 2 kittens in January, but over several months, we actually never saw her with 2 kittens. We've only ever seen her with 1, so we assume at this point that only 1 survived. And like 184, we often see 175 traveling without her kitten. This chart shows that for both 184 and 175, they are seen traveling without their kittens more than half of the time. This surprised me. I don't know if it surprised anybody else. For 184, she is alone 14 of the 26 camera visits. Now this is since we started seeing her traveling with her kittens. So 14 of the 26 visits, which is over half the time, 54% of the time, she is traveling alone. And then with 175, 10 of 16 visits, she's traveling without her kittens, which is 62% of the time. So, what does this information tell us about uncollared females with kittens? Well, I think we can expect that, like the collared females, they too would be traveling without their kittens over 50% of the time, and we would therefore expect them to be photographed over 50% of the time without their kittens. So the big problem here is, how do we know if that uncollared female that we saw last week, traveling alone, how do we know if that is or is not the same female that we saw this week, raw collar, with kittens? We don't. We just don't know because they don't have these anomalies that we can use to distinguish them from one another. And this also is one way that they can be overcounted. Because you could easily say, oh, well, that uncollared female there is the one with 1 panther, and that uncollared female over there with those 2 kittens is a different panther, when in actuality they might be one and the same cat. So, and again, this is sort of preliminary results from our study. We still have another year to go. What we know for sure is we've got our 2 collared females. We have 184 and we have 175. And we know we have these are 2 different uncollared females with 2 kittens each. And we know that because of the age of the kittens. And as I said before, we know that 50% of our camera visits are from 2 collared females, and 50% of the visits are from uncollared females. So if there are a lot more uncollared females using the study area than collared females, then we would think that the percentage of camera visits by uncollared females would be a lot higher than the percentage of visits from the collared females. But still, none of this fully answers that question, how many uncollared females are responsible for these camera visits. One thing we're looking into is using mark resite models to estimate their numbers. Basic premise behind the mark resite is that some individuals in the population are marked, and then encounter data is collected during subsequent sampling periods on both marked and unmarked individuals, and then that encounter data is analyzed in this very complicated mark resite model to come up with an estimate of abundance. This methodology seems promising, especially if we could mark a few more of our females in the study area. While we feel like we've made a good start at estimating the number of male panthers that are using the study area, we still realize that there's some problems determining the number of uncollared females in the study area. So for the next year, we hope to improve on our techniques and explore other options for analyzing the camera data to come up with a better estimate.
Or fish and wildlife.
Well, fish and wildlife, oh man. It's a game of fish.
Where's the, Okay, well after those presentations, I'm going to try not to lull you to sleep here talking about genetics. There's a lot of interesting stuff in the last two talks, so probably not the best talk for the last talk of the day, but initially we were planning on doing our capture work this week and kind of got pushed aside by the weather, so all the rain we had. I'm going to be talking to you today about the Genetic Restoration Project. Many people in the room are probably at least somewhat familiar with that project that was implemented in 1995, but hopefully today I'll give you some more information on that project and give you the results of that project and how it's really had a great benefit to panther conservation. I have to start out by acknowledging the multitude of agencies and personnel, and if I forgot anybody on this, I apologize, but any project that's been ongoing for 30 years is obviously going to require the help of a lot of different people, so recognize those people here and the agencies, but most importantly I want to recognize the citizens of Florida that support our research at FWC on panthers. All of our work at FWC on panthers is supported by those CAT tags, the Florida Panther tags you see out on the road. We don't use any general revenue or tax dollars for our research, and that's a real bonus, and we're really lucky to have that program. So I'd like to thank Florida for that support. I guess there wasn't as much background information in the previous talks on panthers, so I'll give a little bit of it here. I won't play it too long because I think a lot of people are familiar with the different aspects of Puma concolor, which is the scientific name for pumas, cougars, mountain lions, panthers. Different names, different locations. You can see here Idaho, Florida, Wyoming, that's Texas. So they're a cat of many names, and they're widely distributed throughout the Western Hemisphere, from almost up in the Yukon down to the tip of South America. And they were once widely distributed across the eastern United States, but they've been extirpated from that part of the range, and today there's only one breeding population of pumas remaining in the eastern United States, east of the Mississippi River, and that's the Florida panther. And that's going to be the critter that I'm going to focus on today, and then talk to you about the genetic restoration project of this endangered population of panthers. I want to start off with kind of like a little bit of historic background on the distribution of pumas in North America. You can see, just kind of keep these cats in the back of your mind as the talk progresses, but the Florida panthers range right here. This is a map from Young and Goldman in 1946. Notice how it abuts to subspecies number 12, which is Puma concolor saliana. That's the Texas puma. That'll come into play here in a little bit. Looking a little bit closer at the range of Florida panthers, you can see see historically they range from western Louisiana all the way through the southeast and through the entirety of Florida. But due to a variety of factors, mainly unregulated hunting, killing, and the loss of habitat, they've been subsequently isolated down into the tip of Florida here where they persist today. Panther numbers declined throughout the 19th and 20th centuries to the point that many people thought that they were extinct. There were some measures taken initially by state government and eventually the federal government to try to conserve the panthers. Most importantly, in 1973, the Endangered Species Act protected Florida panthers. During this time period, like I said, the panthers were very rare, very rarely observed in the wild. There were some, what I call semi-cryptic releases that were attempted, especially in the 1950s. These are captive animals that were released in the wild. The process wasn't very well documented. The lineages of these animals were suspect, even though they were thought to be, by the owners, pure panthers. Subsequently, our genetic analyses, as you'll see, will show that some of these animals obviously were not pure Florida panthers. The one of note is the Everglades Wonder Gardens cats that were released in Everglades National Park. So during the early 1970s, Roy and Nowak did a survey in Florida to try to see if, what's that? Yeah, I think it is. I think it's Deb, I think Walt and Jade. So in the early 1970s, Roy and Nowak did a survey to see if panthers still did exist in Florida, and they were able to document the persistence of panthers. And that ultimately, that discovery led eventually to the initiation of the research project that's still ongoing today by FWC. It was started in 1981, so entering our 30th year of research on these critters. The initial early stages of the project dealt with learning more about the general biology of panthers and how they perhaps differed or were the same as puma populations out west. The routine monitoring, some of which we still do today, like radio collaring and learning more from the animals that way. And one of the things they noticed in these early years of the study were just how few panthers there were. This is from Roy's paper in 2008. And it's his count survey. And you can see that in those early years of the study, between 84 and the mid-1990s, there were only between 20 and 30 panthers being documented in the surveys. That's a critically low number of panthers, and obviously a population that's persisting at that low level for such a long period of time is going to have inherent problems. And so one of the things that scientists and researchers noticed in these panthers that we were capturing way back then was that they appeared to be suffering from inbreeding depression. So you've probably seen some of these or heard about these more infamous characteristics of Florida panthers, the cowlick of fur on the back and the king tail, which you just saw in Rebecca's presentation. Those are factors, those are correlates of inbreeding is what we call them. They're most likely associated with inbreeding. How much of a detriment that is to an individual panther's health is debatable. Probably doesn't have directly in and of themselves have an effect on their health. These are actually found in other populations of pumas out west and in South America, but the key was how prominent these characteristics were in Florida panthers. They're, as you'll see in some of the data slides, they're just very prevalent, whereas they're pretty rare in other populations of pumas. Probably more detrimental to the persistence of the population were these correlates of inbreeding, like Heterozygosity defects, which is basically a fancy term for a hole in the wall that separates the two atrial chambers of the heart. So you could see how that could have a problem on a panther's fitness over time. You have a compromised circulatory system, that eventually will have an impact on an individual, or it has the capability of impacting their persistence or survival. One other thing that was noticed among many in the early panthers were the prevalence of cryptorchidism. That's a fancy term to basically describe how in males we were having testicles of males were failing to descend into the scrotum as they would normally when they're developing. And so when we go out in the field and we get a male panther on the ground, we like to be able to count to 2. You can there, but what would happen, especially in the early days, is that they would catch a lot of these panthers and they would only have one testicle. And so you can see how that would compromise the fertility of an individual male. You know, half the amount of sperm, felid sperm is already really poor quality to begin with. There was also a lot of abnormalities in panther sperm, very low quality and quantity of sperm. So these are all things that were noticed in these early panthers. And then in extreme cases, there were actually some individuals that were bilaterally cryptorchid, so they didn't have any testicles descend. And so an individual like this is reproductively sterile, and he's not contributing anything to the population. Okay, captive breeding was attempted for a short period of time. You can see it was controversial, involved the removal of kittens from dens and young animals out of the population, putting them in captivity. It didn't persist for very long, and it was suspended in 1992 in favor of the genetic restoration program. Now, genetic restoration is just a way of reinvigorating the gene pool of a population, because a population with higher levels of genetic diversity is going to be healthier and more likely to persist through time. Genetic restoration was developed by panther biologists, agency personnel, conservation geneticists, ecologists. A wide range of people got together and came up with this plan, which would basically be a quick response, much faster than captive breeding, to avert the extinction of the Florida panthers. And they would also potentially have large range-wide conservation ramifications, because a project of this magnitude had never been done in the wild before. And so what we learned from this project, whether good or the outcome is good or bad, could have ramifications on other endangered species that are being studied throughout the world. Of course, with any project like this, there's going to be criticism. There's always like the other side of the coin. There were some individuals that hinted at that we could be impacting the population with outbreeding depression, which basically would mean that bringing in pumas from somewhere else into Florida would cause subsequent generations of panthers to lose evolutionary gains that they made by evolving in Florida. And they would lose those unique benefits that they've accrued over time. It hasn't really been shown to be a major issue in wild populations in the literature. It's been replicated and shown to occur in laboratory experiments, but we were dealing with a wild population. And the other thing about that is that when you deal with a wild population, you only have a limited amount of control over what you can do to make things happen the way you want them. In other words, once you throw those Texas females out there, as I'll describe in a second, we only have a limited control over what they do and how things proceed. So that's also something that had to be thought of. But in the end, even given those criticisms and some of the downsides potentially, it was decided that to go ahead with genetic restoration and see what happens. So in 1995, Roy went to West Texas and he got 8 females from Presidio County, which is out here in West Texas. And I just want to bring back up this map because it shows the range in Florida panther abutting the Texas pumas. And so there's one thing you take home today in terms of a take-home point. This is a good one. The reason we chose Texas pumas to do this was because historically there was gene flow between Florida panthers and the Texas pumas. Right along this border here, there was obviously interchange of genetic material. When panthers became isolated in South Florida, that gene flow ceased. And then panthers became inbred and the population got very small. So basically what we were doing by taking females from Texas and bringing them into here and dropping them in South Florida, we were basically replicating what used to happen naturally. So it used to be a natural process. We impeded that process through development and loss of habitat and overhunting. So now we're just mimicking it artificially, if you will. So those 8 females were brought in to Florida, given health checks, and then they were released at the 5 locations that you can see here in South Florida. Five of the 8 females reproduced, and we documented a minimum of 20 kittens at their den, so that's the F1 generation. Those F1 individuals also subsequently bred. And another good take-home point is there's a lot of people that, when you hear them talking out and about, that they say, you know, we have Texas cougars, there's Texas cougars running around South Florida. Well, just to get the record straight, in 2003, the remaining female pumas from Texas that were still in the wild were removed. So there are no Texas pumas in the wild in South Florida today. And so now I get to the paper that looked at the results of this project, and it was a culmination of the work of a lot of different people, as you can see by the author line here. And this paper came out last year, and so I wanted to just kind of go through the results of this and show you what's occurred since 1995 with genetic restoration. A sample size like this for a large carnivore study is pretty impressive. 591 individuals were used for varied facets of the analyses that we'll discuss today. Microsatellites, some of you are familiar with those. They allow you see them on like CSI and stuff, that's what they use to uniquely identify individuals with DNA. But you can also do other types of analyses, like heritage and stuff that we'll see you go through here in a bit. 23 is a large number of loci to have to use for a study, typically for wildlife populations. I worked on black bears in Texas, and they were a pretty small population, but they're not nearly the inbreeding problems that you have with panthers, and I only required 8 loci. So that just gives you an idea of having to use that many loci because the genetic variation of panthers was just horribly low. I'm going to discuss these different heritage groups here throughout the results. Just to note, CFP stands for Canonical Florida Panther. Those are representative of heritage groups that included panthers that were on the ground before the Texas females were released. Those are, you know, the pre-restoration panthers. EVG stands for Everglades panthers. Remember I noted how there were these semi-cryptic releases that have a unique genetic signature, and you'll see that show up in the analyses. ADN is your admixed panthers. That's going to be the majority of the panthers that are on the ground today. They're basically the descendants of the pairings of the Texas females with Florida panthers, and then subsequent back crossings through time. Texas, of course, is Texas. That's going to be mainly the females, but there's also some analyses where we got some male Texas pumas to look at some sperm quality and reproductive stuff. I'm going to talk to you about the changes in the inbreeding correlates that have occurred since the Texas females were released in 1995, and then look at some demographic and spatial impacts of the genetic restoration project. Okay, so here come the result slides. This is first for kinktails and cowlicks. And you can see that for canonical Florida panthers, again, the pure panthers that were on the ground before genetic restoration, you have a proportion of 0.9 of them, about 90% of them had these kinktails and 81% had cowlicks. If you look by way of comparison, Everglades panthers had much lower occurrences of those traits. Texas females had none of those traits. And the important thing to take home here in terms of genetic restoration is the proportion of admixed individuals that have those traits. You can see it's significantly lower or less statistically than canonical panthers for both these traits. So at least for these two correlates of inbreeding, admixed panthers have made some gains in terms of kinktails and cowlicks. Heterozygosity is a term used to describe genetic variation, and it's derived by using those microsatellite loci data. And you can see here for 109 panthers, the heterozygosity level is 0.167 for canonical Florida panthers. That's very low. In fact, in a study done in 2002, the heterozygosity levels for panthers were the second lowest out of the large felids. The only population that had a lower heterozygosity than panthers were the Gur lions of India. And if you know anything about those, they're isolated, they're inbred, very synonymous to what's going on with Florida panthers. So things were pretty dire for panthers in terms of heterozygosity. Note the bump that the Everglades population gets, and you'll notice that throughout these slides. That's some of that benefit, if you will, that they got from those introductions that mixed up their gene pool as opposed to the canonical panthers that didn't get that bump. Note the Texas females, their level of heterozygosity is much higher than either one of these. And again, most importantly is the admixed population that's on the ground today. You can see the bump in heterozygosity that that population has. And again, it's significantly higher than the canonical panthers. In terms of cryptorchidism, we've seen a decline in that. In the admixed panthers, you can see the average number of testicles on males was 1.3 before genetic restoration. We've increased significantly to 1.9 now for the admixed population. And again, the prevalence of cryptorchidism in panthers has gone down significantly. And note again differences for the Texas cats.
Do females really have testicles?
That's what that's what this is for down here. So they had those are those male Texas cats I mentioned previously. That's why I highlighted that in green. We do know what we're doing sometimes. And then atrial septal defects, they were never really that common in the population to begin with, and so the difference here statistically, it's not significant, but notice the downward trend from 0.17 to 0.08. I mean, that's the kind of trend that we want to see. And so from these slides, you can see that genetic restoration has had a beneficial impact on Florida panthers. If you look at a temporal scale of heterozygosity in the population, you can see how dire things were getting in the early 80s to mid-1990s, with that heterozygosity level declining and declining until 1995, and then you get this nice upward peak in heterozygosity, again, attesting to the input from the Texas female. In terms of age, we had an elderly population, is probably saying it lightly, in the early 80s and through the mid-1990s. But with genetic restoration, we have recruitment, more reproduction occurring, and that led to a decrease in the mean age through time. And we're starting to see a little bit of an uptick here, so that's obviously something we'll keep our eyes on. Just wanted to include this because it kind of gives you an idea about the causes of mortality in Florida panthers. And this analysis here was basically looking at canonical panthers and admixed panthers that were on the landscape at the same time and seeing if there were any differences in the causes of death that we were documenting for them. And you can see, for the most part, there's no difference statistically for the causes of death, either vehicle or other, which could be disease, and there's several things there, and unknown. But the one statistically different cause of death that was noted was intraspecific regression. And canonical panthers have a much higher mortality associated with intraspecific aggression, which is when two panthers fight. So what that could kind of tell us, and we could speculate anyway what that's telling us, is that the fitness of the admixed individuals is better. It's increased with genetic restoration. And the inbred canonical panthers are weaker and more susceptible, if you will. That's simplifying things a bit, but that's probably what that's telling us. They're more susceptible to intraspecific aggression interactions where they're the loser. Okay, I'm going to just kind of wrap up the data slides here. This is just to kind of give you a geospatial perspective on how genetic restoration proceeded through the landscape. This is a snapshot in time, 1995. 26 animals documented at that time. And you can see most of them were canonical Florida panthers. You have some Everglades panthers persisting, and then I threw in the Texas females, including the ones with bees or the ones that bred. Then what I did was just to kind of note how the population has increased since 1995. I took Roy's data from his 2008 paper, and you notice that the population again, 20 to 30 years before genetic restoration, and you see this really nice increase in the population size. And I added on his most recent year's counts to this graph, so you can see the trend here that the population has increased in size. And that's obviously not just completely a result of genetic restoration, but genetic restoration has played a huge part in that. And so this is what the landscape looked like in 2007. So you can see the landscape's dominated by admixed individuals. There are still some canonical panthers